Welcome to this installment of one of our community events. This is one of our personal fuel tools that we've licensed from Succeed on Purpose. And for those of you that I don't know, my name is Terri Maxwell, and ShiftGo offers several free community events, both in personal fuel as well as in business fuel. We have two events coming up this February, one on raising startup capital. That'll be on February 4th. And then on February 19th, we'll be sharing with you the Conscious Business Forecast. And what that is in the world that we live in, with all of the changes that we are experiencing economically, politically, and otherwise, what is really the future of conscious business? What does the world look like as it relates to conscious business? So that will be on February 19th. I've been researching that for the last year, knew that the election would cause things to look a little different, and I've just about completed that, and I'll be rolling that out. So feel free to join us for any of these events. We want to share our tools and our wisdom with you. And what we do at ShiftGo is we train conscious entrepreneurs how to grow their business and maximize their impact. As of December of 2024, 85.7% of our members doubled their business, typically in about a year, some a little bit longer than that. So we're really proud of our results. What led me to do this, my background is I've had multiple large exits. So that an exit is when you sell your business in some way, and that also included a NASDAQ IPO. So I've been doing business for a long time. In 2009, I started a portfolio of brands that had a single goal, that I was going to use these business growth skills that I have to make the world better. And that is Share on Purpose. Share on Purpose has a speculator fund, so we invest in conscious business ideas. Examples of that are Your Izzy, that's the first zero waste makeup line. We also invested and created Your Izzy, the first zero waste skincare line. So I'm really passionate about sustainability, really passionate about businesses that make the world better. And part of Share on Purpose invests in those businesses. We also have what we call the Cultivator. The Cultivator are where we create our own game-changing brands. The first brand that we created is Succeed on Purpose. The method that I'm going to be sharing with you today comes from Succeed on Purpose. We also have Ignite on Purpose, Promote on Purpose, Talent on Purpose. And then in 2020, we created ShiftGo, which is our fifth concept. So as you can see, everything in my life is generated to growing things that make the world better. And that's how we get to the success switch. So I want to have you do a couple of exercises with me. So exercise number one is I want you to ask yourself the question, do I have the power to change my life? And I want you to write down yes or no. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Do I believe I have the power to change my life? Yes or no? For those of you that are tuned in now, you can put it in the chat. For everybody else that's listening later, just don't take too long, but just write down yes or no. Now we're going to test that. So let's imagine three scenarios. You lose a large client. What does that feel like? Now, do I feel like I have the power to change this situation? Second scenario is somebody criticizes you. The world is a little toxic right now, and doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. If you post something, somebody's going to criticize you. Do you feel as if you have the power to change your life? Not change their mind, but change their life. Scenario three, because we're all business owners, is you experience cash flow issues. Do you feel as if you have the power to change your life in those three scenarios? So it's one thing to ask the question generally. It's another thing to give you specific scenarios. So do you feel as if you have the power to change your life? So when we look at the specific scenarios, what starts to happen to our thoughts? Like, oh gosh, I don't want to do that. Oh, that cash flow, that doesn't look good. And what happens is that we end up being at effect of our life. So something happens externally, you lose a large client, someone criticizes you, you experience cash flow issues. And we can feel an effect of it. We can feel an effect of that situation. So now we're going to take this a little bit deeper, and we're going to begin to understand why we can be at effect of what's happening to us. And again, you could put personal things in there. You have a relationship that breaks up, but we tend to be at effect. So what's happening, if you really understand brain science, is the amygdala, which I believe is the dumbest part of our brain, processes emotions and situations, and it links them to old memories. So if I go back to these scenarios that we just talked about, and we lose a client, someone criticizes us, we experience cash flow issues. What's happening in the amygdala is going back and it's searching the history of our life, and it's saying, oh, this has happened before. Oh, wow, we're not good enough. Or this has happened before. Oh, here we go again. And so the amygdala searches back in the memories, and it pulls forward old programs and brings them to the forefront. And there's 5 programs that are common for most people. The first program is the I'm not enough program. It's self-worth. I'm not enough. The second program is I can't. That's what I call the powerless program. Oh, I just can't handle this. Oh, I can't do this. This isn't going to work. I can't. That's the powerless program. The third program is I have to be the one to solve this. I have to be the hero. I call that the Atlas program. If you remember Atlas, it was in Greek mythology, the man who had the world on his shoulders, and he was holding up the world on his shoulders. So when we have the Atlas program, we feel like we're responsible for everything. I have to do this. I have to do that. If you find yourself saying, I have to, that means the Atlas program is running you, and you feel more responsible for everything than you should. Number 4 is the failure program. Here we go again. Here I go again. I made the mistake again. And then number 5 is the who am I? I call this the imposter program. Well, who am I to be able to advise people? Who am I to be able to do this? So I want you to take about, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds, and write down the programs that you feel like you're running right now, like the ones that resonate with you. Drop them into the chat. And for those of you that are tuning in, you can hit the pause button to do that. And then we're going to talk about how do we change these programs and rewire our brain. So I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to do that. Awesome. So we're seeing a little bit of everything. The I'm not enough, very common. That is the most common program. The who am I to, also very common. The I have to, very common. So thank you guys for sharing. And as those come in, what I want to give you guidance on today is you can actually reprogram your amygdala in 7 days. I've tested it with now, I don't know, probably 400 people, I think. 7 days is how long it takes to reprogram the amygdala. And the program that we're going to install first is I have the power to, whatever it is that you want. I have the power to stand in my worth. I have the power to do X. I have the power to do Y. You're going to actually begin the reprogramming today. And if you use this process over the next 7 days, and it takes minutes to do it, you will actually reprogram the amygdala. It's the dumbest part of the brain. It's the easiest part of your brain to reprogram. So let's kind of look at what's happening, and then we're going to go through the process. So what % of the time can you shift your thoughts? So I want to tell you just a brief story. When I was in college, I was at the end of my last semester, and there was one class that I needed to graduate. And this was one of those classes where the professor loved to fail people. You know, we've all had those. And I postponed taking this class. You're supposed to take it in your freshman or sophomore year. And I kept kicking the can down the road because I was afraid I wouldn't pass. It was chemistry. And so sure enough, I'm in my last year, I've got a phenomenal GPA. I'm graduating the highest honors, and I have to get through this chemistry class. And I was scared out of my mind. I walk in, of course, he starts his speech. 50% of you will drop the course today. Another 25% will drop the course in the first month. And the remaining people, you'll be lucky to pass. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking my GPA is going to get affected. And I don't know if I can pass the class. And all these stories are running through my mind. And I leave and I walk out and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And all of those fears, the I'm not good enough fears, I can't, the imposter, all of those are running through my mind. And I'm walking on campus, and about halfway across campus, and this was at Indiana University Southeast, as I had been walking for a while, I stopped and I felt something shift in my body. And I just said, no, I am going to take this class and I'm going to pass it. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. And something switched. And I remember it feeling like a switch. And instead of walking to the cafeteria, I took a right and I went to the library. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to the library. And as I was walking up the steps to the library, I saw a sign and it said, chemistry tutors, and a little one of those little pull down with the phone number. And I called somebody and I got a tutor. Not only did I pass the class, I got an A minus. Not only did I get an A minus, but at the end, the professor specifically called me out and said, we don't have many English education majors that stay in this course and pass this course. But, you know, one of them, you know, actually got an A minus, and I'm really proud of her, like literally. So this was like a monumental moment in my life. And I began the process at that point. So I'm 21 years old at that point, of trying to figure out how to recreate this dynamic. And it's taken me a long time to figure out how to do it. So what I want you to do for a second is, and I'm going to give you about a minute pause to do this. I want you to think of a time when you felt that kind of power, when you felt almost like a switch happen, because you are going to see as we go through this, you already have this power. I'm just going to show you how to activate it. So take about a minute, and I want you to think of a time when you felt that kind of power, when you literally felt a switch flipped or a gear shift and you felt you had that power. I'm going to pause the slide for everybody else, and then I'm going to have you share. Hate this. So when we share those stories, that feeling of power where I can do this, I feel how this feels, we actually can program our brain to do that. And it doesn't take very long. Now, remember, so I had this epiphany as I was walking across campus thinking I'm going to drop this course. And I said, no, I stopped and I said, no, I have the power to change this outcome. I didn't know how I would do it. I just decided. And when I decided, there's a part of your brain that switches where you make a decision and then you find the answers that you need. So what I began to study back then, and it's taken me decades to figure this out, is how do I repeat that? Okay. So there's two powers that we all have, and we all have them, that create the ability for this switch to occur. The first one is when we believe we have the power to create what we want. There are some people in life, some of them famous, who they just believe that no matter what they want, they can have. We all have seen these people. We all know these people that no matter what they want, they have almost like an entitlement. No matter what they want, they feel like they have the power to get it. Well, not all of us have this, but you can teach your brain to do that. The second power is knowing you have the power to change a negative program. So if I'm honest with myself, The left side of this screen, the power to create what I want, that was intermittent for me. So like sometimes I felt like I could do it where I would go for a promotion, or I would, seek out when I bought my first house where I was like, I know I can have the power to do this. If I put my savings plan together, I can do this. And then there were other times when I didn't feel like I had the power. So it was really intermittent on the left. And at some point, I stopped working on the left and I started working on the right. And I said, well, what if I just decided I had the power to change a negative program? And I identified my negative programs and I began the process of changing it. Ironically, it was really the right of learning how to change negative programs that actually changed the one on the left. Now, today, I believe unequivocally, I have the power to create whatever I want. If I want it, I get it. If I believe it, I do it. And it's because I believe that I have the power to change negative programs. So as I was doing this for myself and I started teaching it to other people in Succeed on Purpose and ShiftCo, what I was looking for was the easiest, fastest way for people to recognize they had the power to change a negative program. And that's when I uncovered, this methodology that I'm going to I'm going to share with you today. What this methodology does is it switches the brain's fear response. So this diagram on the right, which I did not create, but I love, is the way that our body is conditioned. Our brain and our brain is sending signals to our body through our parasympathetic nervous system for us to feel safe and in control. And so we stay in our comfort zone. We don't start the business that we want. We don't go for the job that we want. We don't seek a relationship that we want, because every time we start to push outside of our comfort zone, the first zone that we run into is the fear zone. And so let's say I'm starting a business and I go to take action. I go to a networking event and I feel like an imposter. I know I'm saying I have this business, but I don't feel like I do. We're feeling all of this fear, and it causes us to shrink back and just go back into the comfort zone. So part of what we have to do with switching the brain's fear response is switch it in such a way that we can respond to fear with power. And the faster we move through fear, the faster we can do that, which is why speed matters, the faster we move into the learning zone. And what the learning zone is after I get through that initial kind of, it almost feels like a wave that happens when we step out of our comfort zone. This wave of fear affects us. If I can move through that fear, you'll get into the learning zone. In the learning zone, you learn what you need, you deal with your challenges and problems. And if you stay in the learning zone, you move into the growth zone. And the growth zone is where you can, no matter what you want, you can do it. So what I learned about studying this comfort zone and moving through the fear zone is if we can combine a thought with an emotion plus an image, those three have to be present, you can flip the success switch. And again, Succeed on Purpose now owns this methodology, and we licensed it to ShiftCo. And so I began the process of how do I make that happen faster and faster and faster and faster. So now we've got it down to, if you do this little protocol I'm going to teach you twice a day for 7 days, you'll completely rewire that program and it's no longer an issue. So go back to the program that you're running, whether it's the I'm not good enough or the imposter, whatever it is, and we're going to do the success switch on that program and rewire it. Here's how you do that. So we're dealing with the amygdala, and the amygdala is the dumb part of the brain. And the amygdala is constantly running a program, almost like a program that's running in the background on your computer. And it's replaying things in current events. So if I have an I'm not good enough program running in the background, what's happening is every time you go to do something new, every time you try to go to a networking event to grow your business or anything along those lines, the amygdala is like, oh, you're not good at this. What are you doing? Who do you think you are? And it starts playing all of these stories, and they're all made up stories. They're not real. So the way that we reprogram these negative the way that we attack these negative programs is we first have to address the amygdala. And the fascinating thing about the research on this is it's not about instilling the new thought. What it is about getting the amygdala to stop running the program. Let me say this again, because this is at the heart of this. It's not about putting a new belief in your brain, which is what a lot of us try to do. What it is you first have to get the amygdala to stop running the old program. Think of it like a gear shift. So let's say that I'm driving a car in fifth gear and I need to reverse and I want to do something different. So I'm driving in fifth gear, right? I've got a manual transmission and I want to actually stop and I want to go in reverse. Same thing with a negative program. My negative program is running in fifth gear. If I want to stop and I want to go in opposite direction, I can't just throw the car in reverse because it would kill the transmission. It's the exact same thing with your brain. Before you can put a new belief in or a new program in, you have to get the amygdala to pause. Just like with a car, if I'm driving the car and I'm going, and I want to go in reverse, I want to go in opposite direction, I have to bring the car to a stop, and then I move the gear shift into reverse, and then I can go the opposite direction. It's the exact same thing with the amygdala. So how do you do that? The first step is to acknowledge. So the amygdala is very easy to program if you can get it to stop and pause. And the way that you do that is you're going to use the prompt, the truth is I feel, and then you're going to wait about 20 to 30 seconds. So I want you to do it out loud. So those of you that are here live with me today, make sure you're on mute. So you're going to say, the truth is I feel, and whatever comes up, comes up. The truth is I feel frustrated. The truth is I feel scared. The truth is I feel tired. Whatever it is, let it come up and then pause. And you're going to feel the amygdala downshift. And literally it will feel like your brain is fifth gear, fourth gear, third gear, second gear, first gear. So do that with me now. The truth is I feel. And then we're going to wait 30 seconds and you're going to feel your amygdala go into neutral. So that's about 30 seconds. Notice the difference in your brain. Whereas your brain before was spinning, there's a pause there. And that's the first step. And the point of this, you cannot easily reprogram your brain with new beliefs and new thoughts unless you first get the amygdala to go into pause. Just like a car, that you can't just go from fifth gear to reverse to go in opposite direction. You have to first get it to stop. You have to get the amygdala to stop. And the way that you get the amygdala to stop is by using that prompt, the truth is I feel, and you acknowledge what's happening in the subconscious, because the amygdala is just running your thoughts and your emotions in your subconscious. And it's literally going like this. Hopefully you can see me on the screen, spinning, 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 spinning. And when you say the truth is I feel, and then whatever you were thinking and feeling comes out of your mouth, what happens, and then the pause is really key. The amygdala says, oh, wait a minute, new information coming. And the amygdala will literally stop itself to another part of your brain. I call it the boss of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. And it'll say, hey, prefrontal cortex, I'm paused now. Give me some new direction. And again, you can feel it. You can feel the difference. So we tried it together. Now we're going to begin the second step. First, we have to get the amygdala to pause, which is the A, acknowledge. The truth is I feel. When you say that, the amygdala will downshift, fifth gear, fourth gear, third gear, second, first, neutral. And once it's in neutral, it then turns to the prefrontal cortex. And I'm kind of humanizing the way this works, but this is the easiest way to think of it. And the prefrontal cortex is the boss of the brain. It regulates our thoughts and our actions and our emotions. And it's like the boss. And so the amygdala, the amygdala gives up control it turns over to the prefrontal cortex and it says, yo, boss, give me some new information. And now the prefrontal cortex, we can actually activate the prefrontal cortex and get it to program the amygdala. The way that you do that is through breathing. So remember, the amygdala is paused. It won't work unless the amygdala is paused. Now we want to activate the prefrontal cortex, but sorry about that. In addition to getting the prefrontal cortex, the breathing that we're going to do, you're going to breathe in a certain way, will activate the parasympathetic nervous system, and the prefrontal cortex will activate the parasympathetic nervous system and will release hormones that relax your mind and your body. So the way that you do that is 4 breaths. This will actually relax the amygdala and make it easier to reprogram. So do these breaths with me. Breath number 1, breathe in through your nose and out of your mouth. You'll notice kind of like your blood pressure coming down. That is your prefrontal cortex turning on the parasympathetic nervous system. Breath number 2, same breath in through the nose and out through the mouth, just a little bit deeper. You might even feel a little lightheaded. What's happening is the parasympathetic nervous system is releasing hormones like dopamine and serotonin into your bloodstream. And that is basically moving into the amygdala. Breath number 3, a little bit deeper. And then breath number 4, same breath, but I like to kind of add a little ah to it. Ah, kind of signaling that I'm relaxed. Now, if you notice, your brain feels like a little mushy right now. That's because the parasympathetic nervous system is flooding it with the hormones, dopamine, serotonin, and it's moving through your bloodstream and it's relaxing the amygdala. I kind of think of the amygdala as like squishy. It's like a sponge right now, and it's taking in these hormones which feel good, which make me feel good, which then makes it easier to do step 3. So now step 3, we're going to claim a new empowering thought. And so now that I've paused the amygdala, which was step 1, secondly, I've relaxed my mind and my body with those breathing components, I now can instill the new belief. And so the new belief that I'm going to put in is I have the power to create what I want. And so I say it out loud, I have the power to create what I want. And then I start picturing what that looks like, because the brain responds to visuals. So I start picturing what that looks like. Maybe I'm imagining kind of floods of money coming in. I'm imagining myself on a big stage, speaking in front of a big audience. The visuals matter. And then you can almost kind of imagine the emotions, like, yes. And you want to feel all of those emotions. So take about 30 seconds to instill a new belief, visuals behind it, and kind of like put some emotions, like clap or pump your arms, so that it feels real to you. And then we're going to put these 3 steps together. Okay, so I want to do the 3 steps together. And I want you to pay attention to how your mind is feeling. It's a little bit slower right now, which is what it should feel, and how your body is feeling. We're going to do the 3 steps together. So the first thing is acknowledge. The truth is I feel. Whatever comes up, comes up. It doesn't even matter. Pause for 30 seconds. So do it with me. The truth is I feel, and then pause. You're paying attention. You're feeling the amygdala downshift. Feels amazing. You pay attention to it. It's really cool. Now we do step 2, which is B for breathing. needless to say, the ABCs, I like to keep things simple. So breathe in through the nose 4 breaths and out of your mouth. That's the prefrontal cortex turning on the parasympathetic nervous system. Breath 2. Breath 3. And breath 4. Ah. What's happening now is your bloodstream is filled with hormones, dopamine and serotonin in particular. The amygdala is kind of squishy. And now we claim a new belief. I have the power to create what I want. And then for 30 seconds, you're going to picture what that looks like. You're going to feel it, maybe do some Rocky punches. So take 30 minutes and instill a new belief. Okay, so what's happening right now is you're activating what's called neuroplasticity. And by the way, I adapted this from Positive Intelligence, which is one of my favorite products in the world. And we're basically creating a new neural pathway. The old pathway, I'm afraid, I can't, whatever that is, we're now creating a new neural pathway that says I can. And that is basically how you train your brain to turn on a positive program, but it requires you to get the amygdala to go into neutral. From my research, it's just repetition. You do this twice a day for 7 days. That's it. That's how long it takes. It's not the 21 days. If you do the ABCs, the success switch twice a day for 7 days, you will unhook that old program and rewire a new program that has an empowering belief in it. To make this stick so that you do it, there's 2 ways that you can do it. I schedule 30 minutes a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. And I do the success switch plus some other stuff. So it's on my calendar. I do it religiously, like brushing my teeth, and it's on my schedule. And if you're not a calendar person, you can do what's called habit stacking. Habit stacking is every time you fill up your water cup, you do the success switch. Either of these will work, but you just have to do it twice a day for 7 days, not very long, either using your schedule or habit stacking. Whatever that old program is that you identified at the beginning, you will completely rewire it that fast. So again, the steps are really simple. Acknowledge the power in that is you have to pause the amygdala first. So that old program is stuck in your amygdala. The amygdala is running in 5th gear. It's running that old program. That old program is running you. You have to pause it first. B is breathe 4 times to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, to relax your mind and your body. That will make it easier for the amygdala to take this new program in. And then you claim that new belief. And then just focus your mind on that new belief for 1 to 2 minutes, intensely visualize it, feel as if you have it, feel yourself there. The amygdala, again, it's the dumbest part of the brain. It's the easiest thing to reprogram. Using visualization and feeling as if you have it, you will completely rewire it. So my challenge is I want you to choose one limiting belief you want to change, just one. And I want you to do the success switch twice a day for 7 days. Choose a new empowering belief with emotions and images to replace it, and imagine what you could do after you've done it. The steps are very simple. Acknowledge, which causes the amygdala to stop. Breathe, which activates the prefrontal cortex, which turns on the parasympathetic nervous system. Claim a new belief. As long as you visualize with new images and you feel as if it's real, almost like you feel excited, you will completely rewire your brain. I hope that you will do it with me. You can also add in other happiness chemicals to supercharge. Here's a great list. So for dopamine, that's the reward chemical. You can complete tasks, you can do self-care activities, you can do serotonin, endorphin. So these are great ways to hack these happiness chemicals. They're also super helpful. This is from Dr. Demby that created that. You can add any of these into that little exercise. It will work even faster. But if you just do the success switch twice a day for 7 days, you'll completely rewire your brain and take that negative program out. Again, you can join us for any of our events. We've got Raising Startup Capital and then the Conscious Business Forecast. So glad you guys could be with us and so glad that you're part of our community. I'm going to go ahead and hit the pause.